It wasn't supposed to be a hostile interview, or so everyone thought. When JD Vance agreed to appear on the primetime news show Crosstalk tonight, the producers promised an open, respectful conversation. The host, Melissa Crane, a rising star in progressive media, known for her sharp tongue, viral clips, and no-holds-barred takedowns of political opponents. To her audience, she was fearless. To her critics, she was reckless. But tonight, she believed she had the perfect target, a populist, a red state senator, a man she could make look foolish in front of millions. The studio lights flared. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Melissa flashed her signature smirk to the camera. Joining us tonight is Senator JD Vance. He's been making headlines lately. Some call him a voice for the forgotten. Others call him, well, something less flattering. The audience chuckled. JD Vance appeared on screen, calm, wearing a simple navy blazer, no flashy lapel pins, no grandstanding posture, just a man ready to talk. Or so he thought. The interview started routine, infrastructure, border policy, national security. Vance answered politely, methodically, sticking to facts without flaring up. But Melissa Crane wasn't looking for facts. She was hunting a moment, a slip, a quote she could slice up for social media headline. And then it happened. Right as JD Vance calmly outlined the failures of centralized government planning, Melissa interrupted, smirking, and laughed. A full, dismissive, head-tossing laugh. She looked at the camera like she was sharing an inside joke with the audience. "Oh, come on, Senator," she said, dripping with condescension. "This isn't 1950s America. You seriously think Heartland values are the answer in the age of AI and climate change?" Cue audience laughter. JD Vance didn't smile. He didn't fidget. He just leaned forward slightly, eyes locked. And in that moment, everyone watching felt it. Something was about to shift. The studio audience chuckled. Melissa Crane flashed her winning grin, fully confident she'd scored her viral moment, the clip that would race through Twitter, TikTok, and late-night talk shows. She leaned back in her chair, ready to move on. But JD Vance didn't let it slide. Not this time. He leaned forward, slow and deliberate. The lights caught just enough of his eyes to show something rare. Not anger, not embarrassment, but clarity. He spoke, not loudly, not defensively, but with a precision that hit harder than any shout ever could. "Melissa, you laughing at Americans who still believe in work, family, and faith doesn't make you smarter. It just proves how badly the media misunderstands the country it's supposed to report on." The audience stopped laughing. Dead silence. Melissa's smile froze, that awkward twitch when you realize the joke isn't landing the way you planned. JD didn't stop. His voice sharpened like a scalpel. "You call Heartland values outdated because you think prosperity comes from hashtags and ESG scores. But real America knows that strength comes from places you mock. Church basements, factory floors, small businesses built from nothing but sweat and risk. You laugh at them, but they're the ones keeping this country standing while you're reading TikTok analytics in a Manhattan studio." The studio crew shifted nervously. The teleprompter operator missed a cue. Producers behind the glass began exchanging frantic hand signals. This wasn't the interview they scripted. Melissa opened her mouth to respond, but stumbled. For the first time in her career, her practiced snark looked cheap, plastic, inadequate. Because JD Vance wasn't arguing for himself. He was arguing for millions of people she had just laughed at. And they were watching. Millions, online, live, taking screenshots, clipping moments, ready to make it viral. Not for her, but for him. The moment JD Vance finished speaking, the live chat feeds exploded. Thousands of comments poured in. Not mocking him, mocking Melissa Crane. He just buried her without raising his voice. Finally, someone said it. Coastal elites don't get America. Melissa just became a meme and she doesn't even know it yet. And then came the hashtags, Vance wins, Heartland truth, laughing at America. Within 20 minutes, laughing at America hit number 2 on Twitter's trending list. By the end of the hour, it was number 1. Clips of the exchange flooded TikTok and Instagram. One creator posted a side-by-side split. On the left, Melissa Crane laughing arrogantly. On the right, JD Vance calmly delivering his devastating rebuttal. Caption? Who's out of touch now? It racked up 2 million views in under an hour. Meanwhile, back in the studio, Melissa Crane's face hardened. She tried to steer the interview back on track, lobbing a new question about modernization, but it was too late. The audience was no longer on her side. JD Vance answered smoothly, but he didn't have to crush her again. The damage was done. The story had already left the building. Across mainstream newsrooms, panicked producers began rewriting their nightly rundowns. Don't lead with Melissa's interview. Avoid clips that show her laughing. Focus on JD Vance's controversial views instead. But it was futile. The internet had seized control. A prominent independent journalist tweeted, "The most honest political moment of the year." JD Vance didn't just dismantle a media narrative, he exposed their contempt for normal Americans. 100,000 retweets. 300,000 likes. Melissa Crane's brand, once known for quick put-downs and viral dunks, was now drowning in screenshots of her arrogance and JD's quiet strength. And the worst was yet to come. Because the people she worked for? They cared about ratings more than politics. By the next morning, Melissa Crane's face was everywhere, but not for reasons she wanted. Major headlines rolled in. Melissa Crane laughs at Middle America. JD Vance responds with a masterclass in calm. Elite media's worst night, laughter versus working-class reality. Did Melissa just end her own career in 90 seconds? Inside Global One News, where Melissa worked, the executives weren't laughing either. An emergency meeting was called at 9 a.m. Producers, network lawyers, PR officials. Melissa was summoned too, but not to congratulate her. Her boss didn't mince words. "Melissa, your laugh is now a meme for contempt toward everyday Americans. It's gone viral, not in the way we spin viral. It's bad, really bad." Melissa tried to defend herself. "He's pushing outdated values. I was challenging that." But the executives didn't care about explanations. They cared about brand damage, and advertisers were already calling. Big ones, saying, "Why are we paying premium dollars for a host who alienates half the country overnight?" Melissa's agent texted her, "Crisis team mobilized. Prepare for temporary leave suggestion." Meanwhile, JD Vance? He posted nothing. No gloating tweet, no self-congratulatory interviews. Just one retweet of the original viral clip with a simple caption, "Respect isn't outdated, it's American." That tweet alone racked up 7 million impressions in 6 hours. Comment after comment poured in. JD won by telling the truth without raising his voice. This is how you beat media arrogance, with calm facts. He speaks for millions who've been laughed at too long. Across cable news, independent podcasts, YouTube shows, and even international media, everyone was talking about it. One foreign journalist remarked, "In a single breath, JD Vance dismantled a cultural divide wider than any wall or river." Melissa Crane's bosses gave her an ultimatum: issue a public apology, take a leave of absence, let the storm die down quietly. She agreed, reluctantly. But the storm wasn't dying down. It was growing, because what she represented wasn't just a bad moment on live TV anymore. She had become the face of media elitism itself. 2 days after the infamous interview, Melissa Crane sat stiffly in front of a bland grey background. No flashy graphics, no music, just a somber, clearly scripted setup. She stared into the camera and began. "I want to sincerely apologize for my comments during the interview with Senator JD Vance. I realize now that my tone may have come across as dismissive to hard-working Americans. That was never my intention." The apology was polished, carefully worded, utterly hollow, and everyone watching knew it. The comments section, meant to be turned off, somehow remained live, flooded instantly. "You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. Next time, maybe respect the people you're supposed to report on. Heartland America heard your real opinion the first time." Fake apology started trending within 10 minutes. Laughing at America returned to the top 5 again. JD Vance wins surged back to number 1. Independent YouTubers tore the apology apart frame by frame, pausing on the fake sincere eye blinks, highlighting the insincerity of may have come across, mocking the sterile corporate background. One viral TikTok posted side-by-side clips. Left, Melissa laughing arrogantly. Right, Melissa fake apologizing, grim and cold. Caption? Same face, different script. 2 million likes. Meanwhile, JD Vance stayed silent. No gloating, no smug posts, just dignity. And that silence made Melissa's downfall look even worse. Because he didn't have to push the avalanche. It was already coming down. Behind closed doors at Global One News, the verdict was already decided. Her brand was too toxic now. Advertisers were fleeing. Audience trust metrics had plummeted. Her boss delivered the news bluntly. You're on indefinite leave. We'll be announcing a mutual separation by next week. In other words, Melissa Crane's career, the one she built laughing at others, had just been done by one man's quiet, devastating truth. Melissa Crane's fall wasn't just personal. It triggered shockwaves across the entire media landscape. Inside newsrooms across America, executives held frantic meetings. Are we coming across as too elitist? Do we need more guests like Vance? How do we avoid becoming the next viral disaster? Networks that once mocked Heartland America quietly started booking farmers, truckers, veterans, small business owners, people they had ignored for years. Not because they suddenly cared. Because they realized laughing at real Americans wasn't just wrong, it was bad business. Meanwhile, JD Vance's influence soared without him lifting a finger. He wasn't giving gloating interviews. He wasn't posting victory laps. He didn't need to, because every meme, every clip, every apology exposed exactly what he wanted the country to see. Who's laughing at you and who's standing with you. Podcasts, talk shows, and independent media invited Vance to speak. Everywhere he appeared, he said the same calm message. You don't have to scream to be heard. You don't have to insult to win. You just have to respect the people who built this country. And people responded. His speeches went viral. His Senate approval ratings skyrocketed. Donations to grassroots causes he supported tripled. In one viral clip, Vance said, "They called it old-fashioned to believe in work, family, faith. But maybe that's not outdated. Maybe that's what's been missing. And maybe it's time the laughter stopped and the listening began." That quote alone appeared on T-shirts, bumper stickers, and protest signs across the country. Even politicians who once dismissed Vance started copying his tone, because they realized calm strength beats arrogance every time. And Melissa? She quietly disappeared from television screens. No comeback tour, no redemption arc. Because once you reveal to the country that you laugh at them, they don't forget. 3 weeks after the viral collapse of Melissa Crane, JD Vance received an unexpected invitation. Not from a news network, not from a political party, but from the American Civic Foundation, a non-partisan group founded after World War II to honor those who defended democracy. They wanted him to deliver their keynote address at their annual event, a conversation on respect and the Republic. It wasn't a rally, it wasn't a Senate hearing, it was pure America. Farmers, small-town mayors, union workers, teachers, veterans, and JD accepted. The night of the speech, the crowd packed the historic Constitution Hall. No teleprompters, no handlers whispering in his ear. Just JD Vance at a simple wooden podium, facing thousands and millions more watching online. He began quietly. 3 weeks ago, a woman laughed when I talked about Heartland values. She thought laughter would win. She thought the camera would protect her. She thought the country had forgotten who built it. He paused, letting the silence settle, then continued, "But what happened instead is what always happens when truth is spoken plainly." The country remembered. The audience leaned in. The atmosphere was electric, not noisy, but charged with real emotion. JD Vance went on, "Faith isn't outdated. Family isn't embarrassing. Hard work isn't something to sneer at. Those things are the steel and concrete of this nation. Without them, America isn't a country. It's just a flag on a screen." And then he dropped the line that would be replayed, quoted, and printed on everything from coffee mugs to murals. The Republic doesn't fall when it gets mocked. It falls when the people who built it start believing the laughter. Never believe it. The room erupted. Not in wild cheers, but in a deep, roaring standing ovation that shook the floor. Reporters in the back of the room scrambled to file stories. Cable networks that hadn't aired the speech live scrambled to grab footage after realizing it was the defining moment of the year. Across America, clips of JD's speech flooded online. Farmers posted it from their fields. Veterans reposted it from hospital beds. Small-town mayors played it at council meetings. The forgotten had found their voice again. And JD Vance hadn't given them new words. He had reminded them that they never needed permission to believe in themselves. JD Vance's keynote speech didn't just rally his supporters, it forced his critics to change. Across mainstream news networks, even the ones that had mocked him for months, something shifted. The snide jokes stopped, the smirking commentary cooled, because viewers weren't laughing anymore, they were asking questions. Why did it take JD Vance to remind the media what respect sounds like? Why do reporters treat working Americans like punchlines? A famous liberal commentator, one who had once labelled Vance a relic of the past, went viral himself when he said live on air, "Maybe Vance isn't the problem. Maybe the problem is that for too long, our side forgot how to listen." It stunned his audience. It stunned even him. But the applause from viewers was undeniable. University debates across the country began centering around new questions. Are traditional values actually under attack? Has media elitism broken public trust beyond repair? What does real respect for the American people look like? Meanwhile, small-town newspapers that hadn't made national headlines in decades proudly printed JD's words on their front pages. Never believe the laughter. Melissa Crane? She posted a vague Instagram photo of a coffee cup and a caption about starting new chapters. Comments flooded in, "Respect first, then maybe chapters." Still laughing at America? The internet wasn't forgetting, not anytime soon. JD Vance didn't spike the football. He kept moving forward, speaking at small colleges, visiting union halls, touring farms, factories, town halls, not in fancy suits, not with a giant press corps, just a notebook, a handshake, and the reminder that real leadership doesn't need a spotlight. It builds one around the people. And across political divides, something extraordinary started happening. Republicans, independents, even some Democrats. They didn't agree on everything. But they agreed on one thing. Respect was no longer negotiable. If you mocked Americans for believing in work, family, and faith, you mocked yourself out of relevance. 3 months after the viral meltdown, a new invitation arrived for JD Vance. Not from a news network, not from a rally, from Congress itself. Leaders from both parties, still at odds over everything else, agreed on one thing. The country needed a reset, a reminder of common ground, a moment of national unity. And after months of watching JD Vance speak plainly, calmly, and respectfully to the forgotten backbone of America, they realized there was only one man they trusted to deliver it. The event, the National Civics Address, held once a decade when Congress and the White House believe the nation needs to hear from a private citizen, not a politician, not a president, but someone who speaks for the spirit of the people. When the news broke, reactions poured in. About time. The voice of the Heartland finally gets the floor. JD Vance represents what most of us still believe, even if Washington forgot. Even critics begrudgingly admitted Vance's calm dignity has done more for national trust than any press conference this year. The day of the address arrived. The U.S. Capitol was filled. Senators, representatives, justices, journalists, ordinary citizens from every state. No red carpets, no banners. Just the quiet hum of history waiting to be made. JD Vance stood alone at the podium, without a teleprompter, without handlers, without a slogan. Just a man carrying the invisible weight of millions who had been told they were outdated, irrelevant, or laughable. He looked across the room and began. You laughed at farmers. You laughed at factory workers. You laughed at the men and women raising families in small towns you forgot existed. He paused. But you forgot something. America doesn't live in your boardrooms. It lives in their living rooms. The chamber was silent. No heckling, no interruptions, just the weight of truth. JD continued, You don't have to agree with every opinion they hold. You don't have to vote how they vote. But you owe them one thing, the thing this republic was built on, respect. Because if the people lose their voice, you lose your right to call this a free country. When he finished, there was no scripted applause. There was just a long, raw silence, followed by a rising, genuine standing ovation, slow at first, then rolling through the room. Senators, journalists, judges, ordinary citizens, all standing. JD didn't bask in it. He simply nodded once, stepped away from the podium, and left the Capitol the same way he entered, calm, unbought, unbroken. The National Civics Address wasn't just a political moment. It was a cultural turning point. Across America, things began to change. News anchors who once smirked when covering rural issues suddenly shifted to reporting with real seriousness. Colleges revamped civics programs to include respect-based debate as a gradation requirement. Politicians from both parties began quoting JD Vance's speech, not because it was trendy, because it was necessary. Cable news networks, once driven by outrage and cheap gotchas, quietly rewrote their internal guidelines. No more laughing at the people you're supposed to inform. Some resisted at first, some still sneered behind closed doors, but they were losing viewers, fast. America was done being mocked. A new generation of young leaders rose up, inspired not by anger, but by calm courage. They didn't shout, they didn't smear, they didn't belittle. They simply spoke and stood the way JD Vance had. In high school classrooms, students wrote essays titled "The Power of Quiet Strength." In small towns, libraries hosted respect debates, where the first rule posted on the wall was simple: you are arguing against ideas, not people. And JD. He didn't form a new party. He didn't launch a media company. He went back to his Senate seat, still voting, still working, still quietly walking the talk. Whenever reporters asked why he wasn't capitalizing on his fame, he gave the same answer: because this was never about me. It's about them. The people who aren't asking to be worshipped or pitied, they're asking for the respect they already earned. Outside the Capitol, a new marble plaque was installed in the rotunda. Never believe the laughter. The Republic belongs to those who build it, not those who mock it. And beneath it, inspired by Senator JD Vance, 2025. Years later, when people told their children how the country rediscovered its voice, they didn't talk about the outrage or the gaffes or the Twitter wars. They talked about the man who stayed calm when mocked, who didn't flinch, who reminded a laughing nation, respect isn't outdated, it's the future.